So it is time to start building your roadmap for your new business. And that means we've got to put a business plan in place. So one of the really cool tools that we have in this office is the MREA business plan. It's something that David Conderman designed. It is a spreadsheet on steroids. Now, some of you are probably thinking, oh my gosh, that sounds like a lot of work. Here's what I want to do today. I want to introduce you to the business plan so that you can start understanding this tool that you will be using in your new business. Now, I get it. During your first year, you're just trying to figure out how to get business and how to write a contract and how to get a listing and how to get it to into MLS and all of that. But I want you to start building a knowledge of this business tool because it's a really important one. And it is one that will help you know what to work on every day in your real estate business. So I want to give you an overview of David's business plan. And he has extensive videos in the spreadsheet that you can watch that explains every section, every tab, because it's pretty impressive or overwhelming for some of you. You're going to look at it and go, wow. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to share screen and start introducing you to our MREA business plan. Hold on one second. I'll get it queued up so that we can look at it together. So when you're a new agent, I will be sending you, it is a Google Sheet. I will be sending you your business plan for the year. And it is for you to work on and to start using. But I know the first time over 10 years ago when David showed me this spreadsheet, I'll be honest, I wanted to puke. I thought, oh my God. He said, yeah, and you're going to teach new agents how to use this. And this is how they're going to map out their real estate business and have their roadmap and all of that. And I was like, oh, but so many numbers and so many tabs to the spreadsheet. And I was like, oh, it felt overwhelming to me. So I get how some of you might go, whoa, this is a lot. Some of you, though, who loves spreadsheets and numbers, this may fascinate you and you might get so excited about this. So I get it, but let's just kind of walk through it. This very first, you're going to see all the tabs down here. See all of them down at the bottom of the screen. So the first tab is instructions. And what David has done is he has given you a video that takes you through every tab of this business plan so you can understand it better. He's even given you at what time on the video you can find the different sections for different videos or explanations about the tabs. So I want to make sure that you know that you can chunk this down. You don't have to watch this whole video because it's long. It's long. It is based off, David does every October business planning clinics. He usually does 3 of them, so that all of our agents have a chance to participate and attend. He even does a Saturday morning one for those of you all who are dual career. However, if you weren't with us in October or didn't have a chance to go, or you're just starting, then this is how you can learn more about this business plan. So this is your instruction. Then I'm going to touch on some of the tabs, and then I'm going to spend time on just a couple of them, because in the beginning, I really want you just to focus on a couple of the tabs. And with time, you can embrace the other tabs and learn more about them and use them more as a business tool. But here in the beginning, it's so much, I don't want to overwhelm you. The big why. This is a future self, a big why exercise. It is you asking yourself in 5 years, if you were to say, oh my gosh, in the last 5 years in these areas of my life, things have been amazing. this is what would have happened. So you would look at job, at your money, finances, and then you pick two other priorities. A lot of people have family, vacation, hobbies, charities, what have you, whatever you're passionate about that you want to be purposeful about, then this is what you would do. It's a really, really cool exercise in stretching you, because if you don't know where you want to be in 5 years, then it might just happen by happenstance where you are in 5 years. That always felt so weird to me when people say, where do you want to be in 5 years? And I'd be like, I don't know. And then with age and hopefully some wisdom, I started to realize, oh, if I'm not saying where I want to be in 5 years, then it's just going to kind of happen. And it may happen the way I want it to, and then it may not. And so I learned more about the value of being purposeful. And that's what this is about. So even if you don't achieve everything that you put down here in the next 5 years, at least you're going to come a lot closer to achieving all of it, if not most of it, in the next 5 years. Because Gary Keller says, the MREA book, the red book that I give you as a new agent for homework in the beginning. And I'm really hoping all of you have read it and will read it more than once, because once is not enough, especially in the beginning. Not everything's going to make sense. It's not going to all connect. And as you get more experience and knowledge, start building some skill, then some other parts of that book are going to speak to you a lot differently than they did the first time you read that book. So Gary says you can be anywhere you want to be in 5 years. And he wrote the MREA book to be your 5-year plan, that if you follow the systems and models in that book, there's no reason with hard work that you couldn't be netting $1 million in commission income, which is just like, what? I've seen agents in Keller Williams do it in 3 years, which just blows my mind. So almost anything is achievable if you put your mind to it and have a plan. So that is why David has modeled this spreadsheet and all of these tabs right off of what Gary writes in the MREA. So this is special for our office. This isn't like a Keller Williams spreadsheet. This is a David Conderman spreadsheet. And when I share it with other KW agents outside of our office, they are in awe and envy that we have a tool like this. So it's kind of special that we have it. So this is something that, while I would love you to do this, it isn't what I'm going to focus on today. Here's what I'm going to focus on: the economic tab. So the economic tab is where you plug in your number goals for the year. So for 2024, let's say you said, I want to make $50,000, meaning I want to take home in my pocket $50,000. Any of the numbers in red, you can edit after this has been shared with you. And it has to be shared with you because it has to be a copy of this and then shared to you. And then you can plug in to this. So right here on line 10 is where you would put, how much do I want to make? And this is a good way to decide, because you're probably thinking, well, I want to make a lot of money. You might even say, hey, I want to make 100,000 in my first year. And while I love people dreaming big, and while that is possible, that means you'd be working your what off at a very high level. I mean, you'd be working like a crazy person to get there in your first year, because you're learning and doing and building and yeah, all of that in that first year. So what's great about this, though, is when you're plugging in these numbers, we're going to get to another tab that's going to say, okay, here's how many people you need to talk to about real estate every week. And if that number is too big for you, you just go, I don't know how I do that. Well, one, we can help show you how to do that. But if that feels overwhelming or not something that you feel like you can tackle, then you need to scale back your goal, your net profit goal, because this is going to show you the work that you're going to have to put in to make that happen. And can I just tell you, I so wish that when I was a new agent, I had something like this. Every year, my broker, he was a really nice man, but he'd say, "Hey, everybody write down their goals." And we'd write down our goals, we'd submit them to him, and he'd say, "Great, you go do that." I'd be like, "Okay." I had nothing that would help me quantify how much I had to do work-wise or activity-wise to hit that goal. And so there were years where I hit a ceiling. I'd get, to like 5 million production in the beginning, and I'd be like, how do I get past that? I don't know how. And I think, well, then I just have to work harder or I have to work more hours. And it wasn't always that. I didn't know that I could quantify and really have a plan that would basically show me what I needed to do. It's just brilliant and it makes so much sense. And we're so lucky to have that. The numbers you're going to plug in here, this is where you'll see that it takes into account taxes. Remember, you're self-employed and you will have to pay self-employment taxes. So you need to make certain you affiliate with a good tax expert, accountant, prepare whatever, CPA, someone who can help you, because now that you're self-employed, it's different. It's different. No taxes are taken out of your commission checks. So you're going to have to pay those yourself, and we're to pay them quarterly as real estate agents in order not to incur fines from the IRS. It also talks about the Keller Williams royalty franchise fee that is a maximum of $3,000. And in your first year, the maximum that you are due the office is 18,000. And then we have an estimated number for launch coaching. So we put in about an average there. So when you say you want a net 50,000, well, let's go down here and see what this looks like. Well, we have two different columns here on line 16, sellers and buyers, and you'll see a percentage next to each of them. And we've said that 33% of your business is going to come from sellers, from listings, and 67% is going to come from buyers. And the reason we've done some plugging in of numbers is we know that it is not unusual for a new agent in their first year to work with more buyers than sellers. So now, some of these things that we're plugging in for your first year is not where you want to stay. You want to always be leaning towards sellers more in your business mix than buyers. But it's not unusual because we do activities like open houses and things like that that get us in front of more buyers than sellers here in the beginning. So Gary Keller says you want to definitely get to a 50-50 mix is a good healthy mix. And if you can tilt it a little bit more to sellers, that's even better. 3% commission. This will be dependent on what you are going to charge. We're just putting in a number in there for you to give you a little bit of guidance. But remember, in the world of real estate, commissions are always negotiable. So it is going to be what you negotiate with the buyer or the seller. Okay. Then we've put in an average sales price of $262,511 for a new agent. Your average sales price may be higher or lower in your first year, but that's we were basing that on some historical data that we've seen with new agents, and with prices increasing in this last year, it could be a little bit higher, but I think that's a really safe number to go off of, and then that can always be adjusted as we start seeing what your averages are. And so that means you, to achieve that goal of $50,000 net, and remember, net is taking home in your pocket after you pay the company and the franchise royalty fee and you pay the coaching and training program launch. This is what you're taking home in your pocket. That would be closing 13 properties. So that's just a little over one a month. I wish it could be equally distributed like that, but we do have some seasonality most years. with some of the things that have happened in the last couple of years with rate hikes and limited inventory, and then even COVID messed with it too. We haven't seen the traditional seasonality as consistent as we have in the past. But our spring market we start feeling it in January. It starts ramping up really in March. The high point usually for our industry is June, is when the most houses are sold and on the market. And then it starts to trail back down, especially towards the fall and winter months. So that's 4 listings underneath this and 9 buyer sales. So let's back that up and let's understand these other numbers in here, like these conversion rates that we have here. So knowing these numbers, we now have to figure out, well, how many appointments do you need to have every week, every month with people who potentially want to buy or sell a house in order to meet this goal? So under this scenario, we're going to say that you're going to need 3 appointments a month with a potential buyer or seller. 1 seller, 2 buyers, ideally. Doesn't always equally come out that way, but as long as you're having a minimum of 3 appointments with potential buyers and sellers, then you have a high likelihood of making this goal. What that means is in 12 months, you will go on 36 appointments with potential buyers and sellers. And here's what we know. Even if you were an experienced agent, we don't get every potential client. Sometimes they find out they're really not ready or in a position to buy or sell yet. And then sometimes we're not a fit for them. So what we have put in here is a very conservative conversion rate of 50%, and we're taking into account that you're new. So because you're new, we're saying you're going to get 50% of the 36 people that you have appointments with, potential buyers and sellers, and 18 of them are going to sign a listing agreement or a buyer's agency with you. Now, here's a fact about real estate that you may or may not be aware of is no agent closes every single deal that goes under contract or with every single client who has signed a listing agreement or buyer's agency. It's just a fact of life. Matter of fact, when an agent tells me, oh no, I'm 100%, I close every deal. I'm like, in my head, I'm thinking, okay, you're new. You haven't sold enough to have that experience, because it'll happen, because there are things that happen in a transaction that we as real estate agents, there's nothing we can do about it. It's outside of our hands. We can do everything perfectly in a transaction, and our buyer could go and bounce a check. And did you know that the lender pulls their credit in the very beginning when they're getting them a pre-approval letter, and then they're going to pull their credit again right before closing to make sure they didn't do anything crazy. And some buyers do. Sometimes they increase their debt by opening lines of credit to buy like new furniture, new washer and dryer, which they shouldn't be doing before they buy a house. Or they bounce a check or something else, and that can make a difference. So we don't close every deal. We put a very conservative conversion rate for you here. You're going to close 75% of all of your deals. So of the 18 clients who signed with you, we're saying you're going to close 13 of them. So really, we've put in some insurance into these numbers, because if we put the 18 in there as your goal, and we know that we're not going to close every deal, we've really put in some or built some false expectations on your behalf for your numbers. Okay, so 13 closings, 4 from listings, 9 from sellers. Okay. So the next tab I'm going to skip the budget model, and I'm going to go to the lead generation plan. I love this tab. This is all of this information will populate forward into the other tabs. Okay. So here we go. This is your lead generation plan. And if you've been reading the MREA Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, then you're gonna recognize some of this terminology that we use, the METs and the haven't METs. If you haven't read that book yet, then let me explain. METs are contacts that you know. So I say METs are the people in your phone. You know them on some level, right? Haven't METs are the people that you're going to be meeting that you didn't know before, like from open houses or networking or just in everyday life, coming across somebody at the grocery store. Or I was having a conversation this morning with my chiropractor, and he was asking me all these questions about the real estate market here in Kansas City. So the haven't mets are those people that you don't know that you hope to build a relationship and have them as future clients. The Mets are the people you know, and you probably haven't had them as clients yet, but you have a connection, a prior connection of some level. Your Mets are not just your best and your closest friends and family. It's everybody that you know on some level. So don't say, I only know 20 people. I have a feeling you know more than 20 people. Matter of fact, they say statistically, every one of us have no less than 200 people that circle our world. Some of those people you see every day and talk to every day. Some people maybe once a week, once a month, once or twice a year, family gatherings, but they're in your world somehow. Okay. So what we're looking at here is we've got to decide how much of our business is going to come from people you know versus strangers, those haven't met. So under this, what we've populated is we've said 50% will come from people you know, and 50% will come from strangers. Now, for some of you, it may be more strangers haven't met than met in your first year, because here's the downside, but it's really not, but it is a little bit of a downside. So these people know you're new. You can't fib to them because they know, or most of them will know you're new to real estate. And so while they may love and adore you, a lot of them will go, let's just see how they do. They got into real estate. Oh, they might be good at this, but I'm going to see how they do. Whereas a stranger, you may never be asked how long you've been doing this. In my first year of real estate, I was only asked twice, how long had I been an agent? And that's because I believe that I always tried to come back off as professional as possible. I would have professional looking flyers, materials, all of that. I would try to look like a professional so people wouldn't go, are you new? So under this scenario, that means that 50% of our business will come from people we know, and then 50% will come from strangers. That's 7 closings with Mets, 7 closings from haven't Mets. Okay. So in the MREA book, if you've read the book, then you're going to know Gary Keller says in your database, this line 8 here, in your database, he says there's a 6-to-1 or a 12-to-2 ratio. And what he means by that is for every 6 people in your database, you should get 1 piece of business or a referral, or for every 12 people, you should get 2 pieces of business or referrals. So so that 6-to-1 is the gold standard for a real estate agent. That's an agent who has built a golden referral only business, meaning they only work with people they know or people who have been referred to them by people that they know. And so most of us are not there. And especially when you're new, you're not there. Now, some of you, I have seen new agents who got all of their business in the beginning in their first year from their Mets, from the people they know. But most of us, it's a mix. And for me, for my first year, it was just a hair more strangers. And then the people that I knew started to see me do real estate. And then, in that second half of my first year, then I started to do some business with people I knew. So this is going to tell you what size database you need to have. So, and I'm going to be a spoiler on some of this because you're new. You need to do more because you got to get this business off the ground. And this business of real estate is built on momentum. So the faster you go, the faster your business grows. The more that you do, the more it will grow your business. And under this scenario, it says you need to have a database of at least 101 people in your database that you know. And and here's where I spoil it, is that 101 two things. One, they have to hear from you no less than 3 times a month about real estate on some level. And you have to have all of their contact information. You have to have their phone number, their email address, and their mailing address, along with their first name and last name. And most of us don't have all of that in here. So in the beginning here, one of your goals is to get all that information and then start communicating with everyone on a very consistent level. That's why if you watched the video about marketing your new business, about the announcement strategy based on the principles of marketing, 7 touches, and 7, what is it, in marketing? The average consumer is not going to recognize a brand, a product, or name until they've seen it no less than 7 times. And they say in marketing that the magic is in the variety of communication, not just one form of communication those 7 times. So that's text message, DMs, that's social media, that's emails, that's voice, that's in person, all of those different ways. That's what makes the difference. And so those 36 touches a year minimum is what helps build these people into understanding and acknowledging and thinking of you as a real estate agent or not. So you can't have just 101 people just sitting in your database and you don't communicate with them consistently and meet your goal. Does that make sense? So you've got to work these people and you've got to stay in their world and stay connected to them and show them value in order for you to get that 15-to-1 ratio. For every 15 people in your database that you know, you should get one piece of business, so they should give you a referral in this first year. So under this scenario, let's just say you only had 60 people in your METs, in your database, that you had all their information. Then that means you need 41 more people to hit this goal. And here's where I'm going to tell you that I think the database needs to be bigger. And that's because in 2023, the difference was the turnover rate. So in normal times, most historically, 10 to 12% of the population are going to buy and sell. Well, in this past year, we saw over the nation about a 4%. So that means a lot of our experienced agents in this office who had very healthy databases, between 200 to 300 at least in their database that they regularly communicate with, that wasn't enough to bring in what they had been making previously. So I took away from what I've seen in this past year that all of us, all agents, don't have a big enough database. I challenge you to get to at least 200 in your first year. And I mean, not just putting 200 names in your database, but you've got all their information. Remember, email, phone number, mailing address, so that you can communicate and get the most out of those people. Because you won't if you can't easily communicate with them. I see agents that have great ideas of things to share with their database, but they'll say, oh, I don't have them tagged. I don't have everybody's email. I don't have everybody's phone number. So they can't easily communicate. So they never get out their messaging and their marketing out effectively to everyone, because they can't do that. They don't have that ability, that flexibility to communicate. For me, in my world, it was the 36 touches. That was my minimum. It was 2 emails, and they were automated. One was a monthly maintenance tips of what you can do to your house in January and February, March. It's practical information that a lot of homeowners don't know they should be doing. And the other was a did you know? It was just, did you know vinegar will take out such and such stain? Just short and sweet, but having some value to them. And then I sent them to their home address. I sent a newsletter. So I couldn't afford the newsletter to everybody in my first year because I had over 500 in my database. So I would chunk it. So not everybody got a newsletter in the beginning from me every month, but I built up to that to where I was doing that with my whole database. Okay, makes sense. So I would say 200 is a goal for everyone, regardless your dollar goal, because then you're going to have a big enough database, hopefully, that you'll be consistently communicating with, because remember, that's the other part of the equation for all of this to work. And then for those of you who are really wanting to build a bigger business and make six figures, I believe you need to have 300 to 500 people in your database. The people that are making $1 million in the MREA, it is almost 2,000 people in a database. It's going to be the strangers you haven't met that you've met. We call them haven't met, but it's those people you come across that you've added to your database, along with a good, healthy Mets database. So your database really has two major buckets, the Mets and the haven't Mets. Okay, does that make sense? I want you to disregard how many to add monthly. I want you to get to that 200 as fast as possible. And for some of you, you're going to have to go out and be purposeful. For many of you, you've got at least that many people in your phone. So, and that's a great starting point. So let's look at the haven't mets. The haven't mets, when we look at how we're saying you're going to get 7 closings from haven't mets. And Gary Keller says in the MREA business plan that that's 100-to-1 ratio. So for every 100 strangers you come across, you should get 1 piece of business, or they might refer you. I've had that where a stranger has referred me that I have met. We've talked real estate. They didn't move forward with me because maybe the timing wasn't right, but then they refer their mother a couple of months later. And I'll be like, wow, that's really cool. They didn't actually ever use me, but their interaction with me impressed them enough that they wanted to refer someone to me. The other thing is, I will tell you that 100-to-1 is kind of the average. I believe like there's certain activities out there working with strangers that have a better ratio. Like I think open houses, maybe a 50-to-1. For every 50 people coming into an open house, you should hopefully get a good lead and a potential client. So what does this look like? Oh my gosh, that means in a year's time, you've talked to 672 people. What? That's crazy talk. Well, let's chunk it down because that just seems overwhelming, right? This box here, it's on line 15 and it says total contacts. And then it's in the week column. I like to look at the weekly column because I think that that's more comfortable. And under this scenario, it is saying that you need to talk to a minimum of 22 people a week about real estate. Now, good open house could get you maybe half of that. And it doesn't mean you've made an appointment with them. It just means you talked real estate with them on some level. Here, me being a spoiler, I believe that in the beginning, as a new real estate agent, to me, this is a maintenance number. This means you've been working your database, you've been doing the real estate activities, you've got a database that you've been actively engaged with. This is 22 as a maintenance number. I believe in the beginning, you need to be contacting and reaching out to 40 to 50 people a week. And that's why in the 5-week success plan, we talk about the daily 10-4, talk to 10 people a day, add those 10 people to your database. And if they're the people you know, then you're just completing the missing information. Write 10 notes or at least send 10 text messages or emails saying, hey, it was great to connect with you. And then preview no less than 10 properties a week. This business, I say it again and again, but it's built on momentum. And in the beginning, you got to get this big engine off the ground. And that takes the level of activity. Now, if you're a dual career agent, then you've got to decide, what do these numbers look like to you? Can you do that? Can you do enough activities, right? So now that we know the numbers under this, again, I'm going to tell you 40 to 50 a week, because I believe that's what you need to do. And all of you need to be contacting your database and letting them know about your brand new business and what you've decided to do. And do that crazy thing of getting your real estate license. So let's go to the 135, the GPS tab. And this is where you get your roadmap of activities to hit those goals. So let's say under this scenario, we're going to say we're going to get, wasn't it 7 closings from strangers and 7 from people we know? So the 135, let me explain this. It does tell you over here to the side what it's about. It is one goal. What's your yearly goal? And here it was 50K net. That was 13 closings. Okay. And let's check on the sales volume. That's about 3.5 million. Okay, so let's put that in there. 13 closings. 3.5 million. Okay. All right. So one goal. This is your one goal for the year. And then 3 priorities, 3 lead gen priorities, 3 real estate activities, whatever you want to call it. People get uncomfortable with lead gen, the words, but it is what it is. It's connecting with people. Whatever terminology you want to use, I don't care. But this is what you need to do to get business, to hit your goals. And so when we look at this, 7, we have said database always has to be priority 1. Even if you have a tiny database right now, I will never let you take database off, because our goal is for you to grow that database every single year until you get it to a size that's giving you the return that you're looking for in this business. So then, so you put in priority. What are the 3 forms of database on here and this is just a sample of what it could be, but database always is on here. So database, priority 2, maybe you're going to use social media at a high level to get business and to get leads. And then 3 could be farming, either through social media or physical farming in a neighborhood, in a subdivision. And it gives you the activities. So the idea originally behind this form right here is that each one of these priorities, database, social media, and farming, any one of them should get you to your goal, which kind of messes with people's head a little bit. That means, excuse me, one moment. That means doing so much activity under these 3 that any one of them could get you your 13 closings. I go a little bit more realistically with you and I say, okay, from your database, 7 closings. From the social media, since we don't know which one of these other priorities, priority 2 or 3, is going to get you the additional 7 closings, I'm going to put 7 closings with both of them. Okay. And as you start growing your database and your return from your database, you will see each year, hopefully, it should be that you're looking at getting more closings from your database than any other activity. It also helps you understand where you should be spending your time, effort, and money. So then we come down to the S's, the S1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Those are strategies. What are the 5 strategies or activities that you're going to do to get those 7 closings from your database, to get those 7 closings for social media, get those 7 closings from farming? So that's where plugging in these activities. In my weekly email that I send to you all, you'll see attached, I have some more samples of different lead gen activities that you could plug in here and look at maybe some other options. These aren't the ones you have to do. I would, for me, open houses would have been one of these, because that was the second leading revenue generator for my real estate business. I loved open houses. And I got a really great return out of open houses. So for me, open houses would have been part of this. So it can be all these other circle prospecting, open houses, door knocking. Again, you could buy leads. Let me just tell you my disclaimer on buying leads. In the beginning, if you have the money to spend on buying leads, you can. It's expensive to get any impact. You're probably going to spend over 500, with the average of probably about 2,000 a month on leads. And they're not all now leads. They're internet leads. They'll come depending on the company. There's Zillow, there's Real Geeks, there's Bold Leads, there's Boomtown. There's a ton of them. And you're going to get solicited so much as a newly licensed person. You become very popular with people who want your money. Here's where I find that people fall down, especially in the beginning, in buying leads. One, they don't know how to convert people. They haven't practiced scripts. They don't know what to say to them, and they get these leads and they can't convert these people. So learning your scripts and how to do this, it's really invaluable. 2, they don't have a plan of follow-up. They're not using smart plans. They're not putting them in command and putting tasks of when they need to reach out to them. And so the leads just fall through the cracks. And so they literally, I've seen way too many agents just waste money on leads because they didn't know what they were doing. So if you want to do that and you can afford to do that, I'm not against it, but I'm going to tell you, you better have a plan or you're throwing your money away. And if you're curious about buying leads, talk to me or another one of the coaches, and then ask other agents if they've bought leads before and what their experience was. Because a lot of them will tell you, oh, it wasn't worth it. I know some who did it and have done it well. I have fewer and fewer of my experienced agents that are buying leads because they have not seen the results that they were hoping for the money that they fork out for it. So just know that there may be a place for it in your business. It may not be here in the beginning, or for some of you, I had a dual career agent who had enough money to spend on leads, and it helped him get his new business going faster so that he can convert to full time. But he really worked the leads. He really worked the leads. So it does make a difference. Okay, so this is all I'm going to go through on this business plan. There are more tabs down there at the bottom. I always kiddingly say there are 44 tabs here. They're not, but there's a lot. So I hope this kind of gave you an idea about the MREA business plan. It is an amazing tool. It's going to show you what you need to do. And then under these strategies, activities, then you can break that out on the next would be the other 411 tab, in which you can break it out to here's what I need to do monthly and weekly, so that you're not waking up in the morning going, I don't know what to do in real estate today. I'm new. No, these give you your roadmap, your marching orders right here. And you map it out. If you have questions, reach out to me or your coach. We want to help you come up with, because this is the most important thing. Once you know how many people you need to talk to every week, then you got to know what activities are you going to do to hit those. So I love going over this. I no longer get sick to my stomach when I see the MREA business plan, because I see what a gold mine of information and what an amazing roadmap it is for all of our agents. And it is something that I so wish I'd had in the beginning. I can't imagine how different my first couple of years would have looked like if I'd had something like this. So hope you will embrace the business spreadsheet. And again, we're here to help you with it. All right, go out and work real estate.